I think that there is a desire to get back together, and there's also been a surprising amount of demonstrated ability to overcome the barrier that 2020 presented. We overnight practically had to go to working from home, even though our firm and many firms have been challenged with the idea of working remotely because it is such a collaborative profession, because we do get so much out of working together in the same physical space, because our values are so much about physical space and how much it contributes to our behavior and the way that we're able to be successful or not. And so I think the really wonderful thing that came about for me is that we just pivoted to how do we come together in a different way. And so we started to see things like Miro and other digital collaborative tools that took the space of a meeting room and put it into a virtual application. And we are still very much working together and having that synergy, although I admit we miss seeing each other in the same physical space at times.
I think that there's a lot of different aspects to it. A big one is kind of just spatially, everyone is more aware now of how germs spread, and that 6-foot rule, I think, is going to be ingrained in us for some time. So in general, we're starting to see people wanting wider circulation spaces, more personal space in general. In terms of like workplaces, we're seeing a shift away from the open office plan that was very much the thing before this. And I think that when we look at other commercial projects, before an outdoor space was really an amenity, and now it's much more of a commodity, where you're not going to see new restaurants popping up that don't have an outdoor dining area. Before it was a nice to have, now it's a need to have.
I think as professionals and as students, it's up to us to filter out things that are constructive, things that will actually make our designs and our solutions that much better. So I think whenever I see a student worried about a bad critique, I generally assume that they're just worried that they're going to be not told that they're special, or that that their designs are amazing. In fact, it should be the opposite. You should want people to really understand and ask a lot of questions about your work, because that's how dialogue commences, and that's how even more ideas begin to be sprung up. So I think that's kind of what I would lean towards with a bad critique.
So for design and execution of the project, we create a team that we believe have the appropriate skill set and experience for the project at hand. And this includes also reaching out to consultants that would be the right fit for the project. And the consultant, involvement depends on the scope of work. So on certain projects, we need to get approval on the proposed design from the city planning department and have the project entitled first. So we will coordinate with the city staff and, respond to their questions. Then upon gaining approval on this phase, which sometimes could be very lengthy depending on the jurisdiction and the type of projects we're working on, we go through various, and then after we get this approval, we go through various phases of work, from schematic design development, construction document, and then we submit, the construction document to the city for getting a permit. So during the permit process, we coordinate with various city departments to address their questions, and then when they're all addressed, they will clear the building permit. So the assigned contractor will pull the permit and the construction will start. So, and we also provide construction administration to make sure all drawings are followed and their questions are answered till the project is completed. And then we do a punch list to make sure, everything is done appropriately, and we give the list to the contractor, and they make sure they pick up, all of our comments. And then, the project is done. There's a party and ribbon cutting, which is very exciting to attend and see your final product. It's a very, very emotional day typically.
For me, this is kind of an opinion more than anything else. It's the non-architectural stuff. It's the accounting. It's the legal issues. It's the paperwork. Anything that takes me away from the design process. That would be my response to that one. Short but sweet, I guess.
Make the portfolio as accessible as possible. So build it across multiple formats. I would recommend at least a web version, a website, and a book version. So for the web version, I would recommend Wix, Wix.com, and for the book version, you can use InDesign to design it, and I would recommend Issue for like digital scrolling, or if you want to print it. And also diversify your skill set, so you don't have to show only architecture. So if you do other creative things like graphic design or UI UX design, like include that. Of course, heavy on architecture, but it doesn't have to be exclusive, because people want to see that you, first of all, that you have other skills, but also that your skills are relevant to architecture and creativity in general.
Question why, why would you put this on your resume as a prospective employer? Like, why would they want to see, this project or this rendering? Like, you have to show a wide range of skills, and also just showing your personality, but not too much to the point where, they can, I guess, kind of discriminate against you, but definitely a design personality, and showing your kind of other skill sets, extracurricular, that could be related to design, but will bring you up the ladder on the candidates. I think it's really important to network and go to seminars, go to talks, and network with people, go to happy hours, so that you can build a good support system and network in the industry.
We're a very graphic and visually focused profession, and so having a strong portfolio is really important and does set you apart as a candidate. Let your own character come through. And in interviews, when you have the opportunity to meet with a group, yes, it's going to be about your work samples and your employment history, but interviews are really an opportunity for a firm to get to know who you are. And almost always when I'm talking to employers about what makes one candidate stand out from another, it's, do you want to work with this person? How comfortable do you feel with them? What kind of perspective are they going to bring to the team that you might not be having already? And those are the things that I would encourage you to share when you have the opportunity to interview.
More often than not, eventually as a translator of the different languages within the project. And your ability to speak the different languages to the different phases of the project, balancing them with the project's needs and the client's needs, are very, very important. And very rare, and hopefully highly valued. So the language of the owner, the language of construction are different from each other, and they're different from the language of architecture. Coming from like my experience, I am operating from a base idea that the successful architect will identify those perspectives and respond appropriately to them from start to finish.
Yeah, I just wanted to add what I recall when I was first starting out in school. It stuck with me to this day. It was from the founder of the architecture department in San Luis Obispo, George Haslin, but he always emphasized for us to stay curious. And I've heard that across the board, through other things. Don't become complacent, because this profession constantly changes. So you're going to constantly learn new software and new codes and whatnot. So keep that in mind. You're not going to be stagnant with the information you know. It's always going to change.
I feel like right now it's probably easier than at any other time in my career that I've seen to get in the door. The need is very, very high within firms across small, medium, and large firms across the board. But you know, the counter to that is that the work and the value of the work is based on expertise and experience, and also rigor and research and inquiry. Right? So that means, so I figured that means two things. One, it is still hard to find the job that you want and to do the work that you want immediately, especially coming right out of school. You still have to build your capacity to do that. But also, secondly, a good approach to that, especially with your attitude coming out of school, is to be in a constant state of active learning.
We're collaborating with our own internal team, but we are often competing for work, as Mitra mentioned in the process. So there is a bit of that feeling of competition, usually in the beginning stages of work. And, you know, once you put that proposal together, the folks who worked on it are often asking, like, who else is proposing? And there's like an eagerness of, you know, who's going to get it, who's going to win. And some people are really charged by that, and some folks have a less of an affinity for competitive feelings.
I think even it could be okay because it kind of helps you to grow. And I think we could look at it as a learning process. You know, when we compete with other firms, we also learn from the process. Sometimes we see stuff that it could be helpful for us to make some adjustments and to learn from it. So it shouldn't be looked at as necessarily negative all the time.
I don't think we're ever really working independently because we're there, regardless of if you're starting out or if you're in the management positions or in between, you're always going to collaborate with your bosses or the ownership or like say admin team if you want to do contracts. So regardless, you're always speaking with somebody. You're never in a vacuum by yourself. Which is nice. So you should get used to working with people, unless you're in your own firm, but still then you would still collaborate with the owner or the developer.
Definite benefit that a large firm carries is that a large firm will carry a lot of insurance. And just like doctors carry malpractice insurance, architecture firms carry professional liability insurance. And so now the firm is paying for that on your behalf. If you start your own firm, you're going to have to figure an insurance premium into your overhead. Additionally, a large firm such as ours carries a corporate protection clause in all of our contracts. Basically, if there is a lawsuit and we get sued, that happens, the company gets sued. You as an individual licensed architect do not get sued. They can't sue Mitra. They can't sue Terry. They wouldn't sue me, but they can't sue any of you guys. So those are the benefits. And it also kind of addresses what Terry was talking about in terms of the things that architects hate, like contracts and paperwork and legal and all that stuff, because now you've got a department of people. I'm the only one here today. You've got a whole bunch of people up here who can handle that for you. On the other hand, the flip side is that if you are starting your own firm, then you're much more hands-on, and you might find that you actually might like really working with your clients individually on their billing and on their contracts and negotiating things with them and really developing that kind of bit of business literacy. So it depends on what you want to do.